Well, hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ and Happy New Year. Click, 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 click. Happy New Year. Old Lang Syne, which I don't know any of the words to. Yay, we're going to. Happy New Year. Or is it? So today, on the day of the new year, this being a tabletop role playing podcast that we do live, our co hosts in the chat coming in through YouTube and Twitch, joining in. We're going to talk about the new year. Uh, I, I specifically didn't call it Happy New Year's um, because this being a tabletop role playing podcast, we are going to literally bring in a new year and kind of play with the idea of these special occasions in our own real world, and then turn the volume way up and go really bizarre with it. It says, yeah, and King's like, another year, or as it's sometimes called, an 11 day. Yeah, we've got some extra days. Listen, sometimes the simplest or dumbest or strangest or most innocuous things we say in our own world can kind of be fuel for our creative purposes. So I'm going to relate to you something that was created back in Marvel Comics to describe what maybe this new year would be. So in the olden days of reading Marvel Comics, there was a villain known as Kulin Gath. Kulin, Kulan, and Gath, Gath, was an comic book villain from the Conan genre. And yeah, Feliz Anno Novo. Yes, Happy New Year. And oftentimes the New Year is often portrayed with the old man with the cane walking out and the new baby being brought into the new year. But in this comic book series, with the main villain Gath, of which you did not know, you were reading Marvel Comics. I believe it was a Spider-Man series, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, you're reading the comics, and 1 month it was typical, like 4-color. Hey, we're gonna punch the bad guys in the throat and save innocents and whatnot. The very next comic book, Spider-Man was literally crucified, costume half ripped, the classic Spider-Man with his ass beat, crucified in the middle of town square. There are demons flying all over New York City. Half the superheroes were dead, with wanted posters and funeral pyres and things like that. And it was just this complete dystopia of all of our favorite Marvel superheroes. And there was no explanation why the comic before it was completely different than the comic that followed it. And then you had to follow a rabbit hole because Spider-Man wasn't even speaking English. Come to find out. Hey, Harry, the only member of the group quite a bit older than myself here. Thank you very much for that. You guys are helping defeat the algo monsters. I really appreciate that. Sadre yesterday, Harry today. Thank you very much. Yeah, hit that like button. So as we follow the story of in a world that we didn't understand, Spider-Man, for some reason, happened to have the strength of character. Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, Spider-Man didn't need the nails; he would have stuck to the cross. Yes, that kind of went through my mind at the time, but it was actually more painful because he was stuck up there with like mystic nails or something. It was pretty bizarre and nasty. People were being round up in the streets and such, and enslaved and whatnot. Come to find out that Gath, the wizard, cast a spell that retroactively made him the wizard king of New York City and the surrounding area. And the spell altered basically altered reality to make him that way. And the Spider-Man and the many other heroes had to work together despite the fact that they were ripped apart by distance and by language and things, to work together to defeat Cool and Gath, to return reality to what it should be. So we're not talking about comic book characters. We're talking about Cool and Gath and this story idea where literally from one moment to the next it changes. So what does that have to do with the new year? Well, what happens in our fantasy gaming? What happens in our setting if a new year is literally new? What if the players go to sleep, they fall asleep in your fantasy setting, and mind you, you guys were having fun, but you fell asleep, and the characters fall asleep, and you're like, you know what, this needs to change the next year, and this is the day of the next year. They wake up and the moon is different, the animals different, the air smells. What if they're literally in a new world? What if each year brings upon it, whether the population is aware of this or not, whether you feel this is something that is on the horizon or not, maybe this is a central part of your setting. What happens if the new year is new? A new world, a new um, a new government, a new way that magic operates, a new influx of power. What if there's a proverbial throne that the deities of your world sit upon, and by the end of the year, one stands up, slowly leaving their chair, literally peeling themselves from the chair they've been sitting there for an entire year, and the next deity or whatever sits upon it, and boom, your entire world changes. And the players now must navigate a world that they're not familiar with. Maybe the population, when the new year comes, maybe they're not happy to see a new year, or there's a mixed intensity. Who knows who's going to sit upon the throne? Or maybe there are three. maybe there maybe there are three powerful entities, the one of fire, one of blood, one of shadow, and each one of them takes their turn sitting upon the throne, and they know, uh-oh, the deity of fire has stood, giving us warmth and light, but could be burned at any moment. But now the deity of shadow sits upon the throne, and it's an entire year of darkness until the very end of that next year. So let's see what our our co-hosts have to say. Mm-mm-mm. Blessings to thee and thine. Merry Christmas to all. Prayers for peace, forgiveness, compassion, Christ's love to all. Well, thank you there, Harry. Although maybe I'm probably going down a darker path than your blessings to all. But let's all have a little bit of that. Everything new and 20% off. It's just like, what was that word you said? We're talking about cool? Maybe it's not so cool. Well, the creative process may be cool. The world that our player characters navigate in may not be. And imagine, if you will, a setting, or heck, even if you have a long-term group of players that you game with, maybe the idea is to have a 1-year campaign where the players are trying to return the world back to the year it used to be. And when everyone knows, when the next year of shadow comes along, they're like, oh no, this is going to be horrible for all of us involved. And the players may need to go on a quest to see if maybe one of them can sit upon the throne, or place upon this proverbial throne one of the godlings, or what have you, to bring about maybe more peace than shadow for an entire year. Yeah, Shitlord says, so what's a nice earth-shattering event? Yeah, asteroid, global warming, global cooling, right at the end of the year. Hey, who's to say that's not a thing that could happen in your world, right? Hey, it's the end of the year. Metagame wise, we've all like, you know what? We've done the average fantasy, you know, cream of wheat, Wonder Bread. Like, we've done this kind of like Greyhawk-ish, medieval-ish, uh, Forgotten Realms-ish world. Let's do something new. And maybe the next year is to take all our toys, dump them on the ground, pick out our favorite ones, and the new year becomes something truly new. And what a great way to take your map of your world and crumple it up, or reshift it around or something like that, and said, yeah, I don't even remember what I said. I honestly don't remember half the damn things I said. Sorry about that, guys. Uh, Oh no, the king says, I cannot think of a worse ending than a player sitting on a god throne. Well, okay, all right. Think about it like this. You got a player who likes to complain about how the world is, and you say, all right, here's your job now. Your player has just retired onto the god throne. You design the next setting. We'll play in it, but you get to design the rules and what the world is like. That would be kind of fun, if a little bit panic inducing. I think so. Shai says, yeah, Year of Shadow. Rift opens to the demon world. Planescape Dimension Door opens up, and all the Tanari come pouring out. Yes, minus the question mark. Yeah, maybe, maybe. The year of the Vampire Lord, the year of the Lich, year of the Dragons, year of the. I mean, there are so many different cultures that celebrate the cycle of seasons and an entire year. And of course, as here in the States, at least, we like to celebrate December 31st, January 1st as the new year. Maybe in our setting, new has a literal meaning. Now, maybe you're someone who's like, well, my world and my gaming experience isn't that bizarre, but it could be that upon the new year, much like having a New Year's resolution, maybe there are entities in your world that go, you know what, we've been sitting in the background far too long, and us, I don't know, nagas or manticores or something, like, sitting in the background, go, we need to step our ass up. Yeah. And then maybe the new year of your new world is like, I want to put something a little bit different in the world. I'd like to have, I have to come up with something like, maybe the five nations of your world start to go to war, and that becomes a backdrop in your world for at least the next year. Um, in your gaming experience, and the players are like, well, I don't have any loyalty to any of these five. And of course, what happens if you don't join a faction? Then you're against that faction. At least that may be their opinions, and maybe players get pulled into something. So yeah. Yeah, DB, it says Drew's like, DBJ, I think Shice was asking what words you said there. Old Lang Syne, maybe that was it. What's the New Year's song? I don't know that. I don't know the lyrics to the song. uh I'll make everything better now. Let's just change all this weird stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe, but listen, if um half the battle in getting a good gaming group together is trust. The game master to trust the players to trust the game master. And it would be pretty interesting for the players who are like, I don't like this setting. I know how I would change it. And you go, all right, we'll see. Yes, or something nice happens and perfectly fermented good berries start popping up everywhere. Yes, everyone with I'm assuming good berries are like purplish or whatever, and everyone's mouths and fingers start getting stained because they're just like, this is great to drink. But that in and of itself could be a change into a new world, right? Like a new year brings upon, I don't know, what's some funny things we talked about? The mimic rust monster goodberry gelatinous cube uprising starts, and the new year is just like, is there literally a caravan of gelatinous cubes coming to town? Like, that's really weird. Mm-mm. Yeah, God Emperor Throne, like in 40K, yeah, where you're a mummified skeleton for all eternity. Well, at least for a good year, maybe something like that. Yeah. You guys are so funny. The word sounded like it started with cool. Cool. No. This is the word I said. Cooling Gath. He was an old Conan wizard, sorcerer, warlock, or something that was then resurrected and dusted off back in like the 80s or 90s, and then brought into the comic book, Marvel comic book, modern day as a wizard, warlock, cultist or something that did a comic book series in which they didn't promote it, they didn't explain it, there was no advertisement for it. It was just February there was a comic book that was average, and then March the comic book art, writing, imagery completely changed. All of the vast majority of our superheroes were dead. New York was taken over by demons. There were cultists and soldiers rounding people up in the streets to enslave them and being tortured and stuff. Yeah, and Cooling Gath was one of these characters, which you didn't even know what happened or who the bad guy was until like 3 comic book series episodes into it. And then because at the time we as readers were like, what the hell just happened? And then it unveiled itself that this great wizard, and I'm using this as a template for a new year, that something happens in your world and everything changes. And this could be it. Maybe the Council of Seven Wizards did change the world. And the players are like, what do you mean that I can't get back my spell slots unless I sacrifice a goat or something? You're like, oh no, those are the rules of Magic. And you're like, that's not what the rules say. And you're like, well, you slept through it. These are the new rules, or whatever the case might be, right? Like, hey, every time you cast a spell, that's how many hit points you're going to lose. You mean if I cast a 3rd level fireball spell, I'm gonna lose 3 hit points? Oh yeah. Or no, did I say hit points? I mean it comes directly off your attributes. Right? Wait, what the hell? Right? Something like that could happen. Now, mind you, you really don't want to surprise your players. You want to surprise the characters. You really don't want to surprise your players. It sounds cool, but don't do that. But the idea that one day the players go to sleep and they wake up in a new year, or they're at a festival of the new year and people are bringing, it's a foreshadow. The population in the city state is in the grand square, and each of them brings an offering to give to one of the 3 statues that is in the town square. Maybe there's a monolith or something engraved, and the PCs are like, oh, this is pretty interesting. And people are bringing different gifts, hoping that one of the 3 grand demigods or something takes the throne to change the day. Or again, it could be an evil force that changes something around. It could be good people. It could be something good that happens. And or the horizon, there used to be mountains. The next day it's just flat plains. Like, how'd they turn into salt flats? Dark Sun kind of started that way with the rain of colorless fire. Maybe the new year brought that about. Sadre says, as soon as the new year arrives, a white light covers the PCs and they return to the first adventure they had in the campaign. That's a great idea. I like that. Listen, sometimes we could spend some money on our adventures. Why not revisit them? Go back to where it started. Maybe time goes backwards and the players, with all their new experience, and they remember what they've done over the past year, but they get put back. It's a 1-year Groundhog Day. Yeah. Shice says the new year could start with the day of grain and grape, and then you realize the climate disaster is upon us because it's wintertime. Yep. Yeah. But get inebriated on some libation, and then they fall asleep. Players just doing their thing. They fall asleep in a tavern, and when they wake up, they look around and there's like, I don't know, tumbleweed and dust has come in and there's nobody around, and all the people that were there are like skeletons or something, and they're like, what the hell? Yeah, Shitlord says, Cooling Gath, gotta brush up on my Howard. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it did the old villain, Conan villain. Yeah, when Conan came back to Marvel, they put him on the Avengers. Very funny stuff. That was pretty ridiculous. Yeah. The new year gave me a different idea. a campaign where everyone plays animals in a valley. In the New Year's, whenever humans open up the dam and flood everything, biblical destruction every time. Wow, that went really dark. I was like, oh, characters play animals. That's different. I like the ooh. Yeah, yeah. That's dark. We always go dark, don't we? Drew says, I think I would use the day of the new year more as time travel than as changing the world. Well, listen, if it changes your world, it does everything else really matter? You know, so time travel could be a thing, going backwards in time or forwards in time. Being able to relive an event, maybe going a little bit sideways in in time, meaning that maybe the players now portray the opposite side of a conflict, going back to a conflict with three different sides, and the PCs went through an entire adventure, not even thinking they would represent the other side, and then you go back and go, all right, you're going to play the side of the goblinoid hordes and why they were there, and now you get to make up new characters, but we're going to rewind and do the entire adventure series all over again. That would be a great um sideways shift or something. Also, maybe the new year, as uh, individuals are chosen, of course, our big damn heroes, and maybe others are chosen to lead the new year because of their past actions. Like they're chosen to be representatives of some sort, or maybe they're supposed to meet a challenge of the new year to bring about goodness or light or prosperity or something of that nature. Maybe all of their actions from the past year somehow influence the very next year. So all of the good things they've done become even gooder things. All the bad things become even badder. I don't know what that means, but hey, Pyromancer, remember all those fireballs you cast? Yeah, this next year, it's just a world full of like flames and things like that. Hey, Barbarian, remember you killed everything? Now the world's like overrun with hordes of barbaric hordes or whatever. Hey, Rogue, remember all that pickpocketing you like to have fun with? There's pickpockets everywhere you go. Like maybe, I don't know, that you could even draw upon that. Or maybe you just have a calendar for your world and you want it to be a little bit more substantial. So if the next year is the year of the crow or the raven, by the way, that was one of the first episodes of the Day of series. If the day of the raven, if ravens become the new year, maybe the new year is just you're using that as a theme or a thematic element. So all of the avians in the world have these black wings and are like ravens or crows or something. Or whenever the players travel and there's a dark omen, they look overhead and it's like there's another flock of ravens circling overhead, and like, oh, for a year, here comes the danger. Grab the dice, right? Sure. Harry says, in a game I am running, they are fighting a demon of the void realm. And this could also be day of the last day. Exactly. Maybe this new year you brush off something, like maybe the players dispatched but didn't really eliminate a big bad evil guy, and the heroes, big damn heroes with their fists on their hips, are like, we saved the day. And you're like, no, you didn't. Because remember that dragon that you, I don't know, used the spell on to just cast to another dimension? Well, not only is the dragon back, they've dominated the landscape just over the valley, over the hill or something like that, and everywhere you go. And maybe the new year is just a thematic change, a thematic change of war or famine or sacrifice or political upheaval or something of that nature. Yeah. Let's see. Hanada says a new year arrives, and after a party, okay, the PCs wake up in new bodies, but they don't recognize the faces they are wearing. Yeah, I likes that. I like players who's like, oh, hey guys, by the way, remember the player characters you were playing? Shift it to the left. That's your new character. Oh no, you're the same personality. You're just playing some people that are new. Uh, sure, why not? That'd be fun. I've done that with my old gaming group. We used to make up characters for each other. Um, we did that plenty of times where we're just like, all right, everybody, make up a bunch of characters, put them in a pile. You can't pick your own, but you can pick somebody else's. And then we just kind of did that, jumped in the dog pile and stuff. Yeah. Drew says, imagine the whole population getting transported to various points in time. Thus, every year, nobody knows where in time they are. That's kind of horrible, and I like it because maybe the players are playing their own relatives. Imagine a big damn hero has, I don't know, the murder hobos, right? I don't know my family. They were eliminated, but I'm just a big damn hero. And then the players go back in time, and then you realize the big warrior is the one who gave birth to himself, but they're playing through the past just and at the very end of the year, them and their village gets overrun and they get killed except for a small child that gets transported away and then the other one becomes my village was destroyed. I don't know what happened, but I'm just wandering the world, that would be pretty interesting. Play your own ancestors. Or the new year we get to go back in time and play through an ancient event that happens. How many settings have had ancient wars that have happened 1,000 years ago or something? Maybe that happens for the next year. And we're playing a Bronze Age game, and you wanted to use the new, more lethal resource management style rules for your fantasy setting instead of the more arcane heroic type thing. And the players, they're all into it. Like, man, I want to play something a little more survivalistic. Great. It's the same map, but it's new because it's in the past. Yeah, time travel. You did it. Yeah. Wreck the continuum. Sorry about that. Day of the last day. What are some other New Year's kind of things? Oh, New Year's resolutions. Maybe New Year's resolutions for us. Always we get blasted with all the sign up for your exercise, sign up for gym memberships or things like that, resolutions to do things gooder, better for ourselves. But maybe these resolutions in this fantasy realm come true. Maybe they are the impetus, the origins of some of the monstrous things you see out in the world because people wished for something. Maybe it's more wish fulfillment than a new year, but maybe it's something where they're like, I sat in the background while the big damn heroes made me look foolish. This year it's going to be me that is in the come up, and then something else happens. Yeah. The Ant King says Faye would have literal resolutions every new year, every near year things change. I know what you meant. Every new year. Yep. It keeps changing for real. Yeah. And especially fake creatures, right? Maybe they come along and go, oh, this is a fun game. And people have resolutions. They speak them aloud, knowing that, like how we have sarcasm, and we know it's not really going to happen that way. But the fake creatures are like, oh, they really want to be that way. Like someone's I'm scrawny and they pick on me. I wish I was like a beast man that I could just take them out. And the fake creatures are like, oh, sure, I'll do that for you. Bling, you're a bugbear now, right? That would be pretty hilarious. Maybe the world itself is unfinished. It is a world that is easy to change and shift by just by morality and ethics and things. And each year, the physical manifestation of the desires or fears or something like that happen in the world. So, and when that new year comes about, the big damn heroes are rolling their eyes. They're like, oh no, last year, people always kept talking about and fill in the blank. Now we're going to have to deal with that all next year. Yeah, Harry's like, or play U2's New Year's Day and the world changes. Yep. A song changes everything. Yeah. Drew says, sure, your resolution to exercise more comes true. Running away from zombies will keep you fit. Get that cardio up. Hey, listen, I ain't got to be the fastest. All I got to do is be faster than you. Yeah, hell's yes. um, but also one of the concepts of having a new year. I'm the damn YouTube song is playing in my head right now. Um, so to have the new year, we see the old man walking away and the new baby comes in. Maybe, just maybe, yeah, exactly, Shice. Maybe, just maybe, the players must guide, protect the MacGuffin, the little baby, so that the new year can come about, so that we have a transition through the seasons and through the normalcy. Maybe the players have to make sure the ancient elder of time is protected and taken over to the place where the lands beyond, where the elder deity of time can go for the new baby to show up. Or maybe the old man goes to a proverbial place, extra dimensional, and a small baby comes about, and the PCs have to protect them. And maybe even the PPP, maybe the player characters must protect the baby, which influences the next year in itself. Hey, the warlock starts teaching the baby, and the cleric and the druid and the rogue and the monk and the paladin speak to the little child, and then they start to their words and actions start to shift the new year. Would be kind of cool. Okay, the End King says, thinking about 5e's milestone XP, what if this world has milestone time? Every new year, everyone has to meet certain goals to keep time going. Yeah. Yeah. Now, what happens when the half the interesting part of that is what happens if they fail? I don't know. Like, do rivers just stop flowing or something? You just walk across it like it's plastic or something? I don't know. But it would be pretty strange. Mm-mm-mm. The Yankee says, so you were going to finalize your divorce next week, but now you can't because someone in some part of the world refused to get with the program. Yeah, well, that's a great mission, to go find these people out and go, hey, got to confront them. Listen, I've traveled about 5,000 leagues to get here. I'm going to need you to get on board. And they're like, you can't tell me what to do. Everybody's on board with the thing. Right? To keep time flowing forward. Yeah. Adam Clayton and Larry Mullen are still cool, though. Buddy, yeah. The crops were going to come in and grow tomorrow, but now they're waiting. The PCs better hurry up and find that troublemaker. Yeah, that would be hilarious. But plants half open, flocks of birds just frozen in the air, looking around like, come on. Shitlord's like, shut up. There's no you two in this fantasy world. I don't know. I mean, look, we like our lutes and lyres and Celtic music, but come on. We have to have some other musical trends in our fantasy world. We've got big damn machines and stuff, and artificers, and alchemists and all that kind of crap, and gear forged. We got to have a rock group of some sort. It doesn't have to be YouTube, but it's got to be something. I don't think electric guitars would be too hard to build in the fantasy realm. The damn way we describe it in classic D20. I don't know. Mm-mm-mm. He's so silly. But it would be, man, I wonder what disruptions would happen if time wasn't allowed to proceed forward into the new year until the player characters solved it. Like, there's rock and roll and Obsidian Star. Yeah, maybe there's folk music. You don't know. Lots of harmonicas and ham bone. Maybe it's ham bone. It's just body slapping and beatboxing. I don't know. Oh man. I don't know what the slap thing with the thing in the hip and I don't know what it is. But I know it is. I know it's a thing. So, for Another way for New Year's could also be introducing new things that you've purchased. That new book of monsters that you've purchased, a new game series, a new, maybe for the new year, you say to the guys, hey guys, we're gonna keep all your characters, but we're gonna remake them with this new rule set. Pathfinder 2, I'm looking at you. Tales of the Valiant, I'm looking at you. Advanced 5th edition, level up, advanced 5th edition, I'm looking at you. But you get my point, right? Hey guys, we're gonna play the same characters. We're gonna do another campaign, but we're gonna use different rules. So hey, I just picked up Dungeon World or Apocalypse World or something like that, or whatever. Shai says, that would be awesome. I would try some future folk on the baritone guitar and upright bass. Hells yeah. Uh-oh, Drew. If time cannot continue, then Karen will talk with the manager about it. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, I think that's lowercase k because they're not that important. Yeah. Yeah. No Sunday, Bloody Sunday. Yeah. Oh man. Now, with a new year, we can play with, if you want to do a little bit more disruption, maybe normally evil monsters or creatures become more accepted into the population. Maybe there's physical shifting of your very world. Like, oh, remember that old map that I made in Incarnate? Yeah, I threw it out and erased it. There's a new world. And the PCs are like, wait, what? No, all the rules are the same. All the factions are the same and everything, but we just have a new map. You're like, that makes no sense. Yeah, it does. It's the new year. So new maps. I do like the idea of going back to old adventures. Uh, there's something special about, like, with the players who know what the map, I mean, the dungeon map, they remember where things were and they get to go back and relive it again. I like that. Karen controls the new world in the new year, the day after tomorrow, and the reign of the Ice Queen begins. Hells yeah. Heck, you could even, and I don't know how to do this, you could even introduce new seasons. Oh, you're 4 regular seasons? Nah, we've got 3 new seasons coming up. Like, new seasons, what does that mean? You'll find out. Oh, we're breaking down into a music analysis channel at this point. But no, also, this being a place for us to steal ideas, we have to come up with reasons, like, why would players do the things that they're doing in this world. I love what you guys have said, like maybe they need to travel through the world to find the people who are causing the disruptions in reality itself. Time can't move forward, plants can't be grown, or the rains stop, things like that. Yeah. Season of fire instead of summer, I like that. Hey, Jelio, 1 2 3 4 5 6, I'm gonna call you something else. And or Helio, maybe, could be Helio. But yes, a season of fire, fire instead of summer. I think that's a great idea. I mean, again, I love turning the volume up on things. You know how I get. So instead of spring, it's a season of uncontrolled life. Remember that forest you used to be able to walk through? Now you can't even hack your way through it. If you hack your way through it behind you, if you just squint, you can actually see the plants start growing in and stuff. Those small monsters, like small animals, like little rodents and birds out there in the wild, they're growing 20 times larger. They're all dire versions of themselves and whatnot. For summer, it's the season of fire. It literally rains fire down on the ground. It's like when the sun is at its highest point, is as hot as a kiln. Everyone takes cover or something. Yeah, a new year. And of course, listen, this excuse for having a new year is for you to come up with, maybe there's something you've had in your back pocket and you're like, man, I really want to introduce this to my setting, but it doesn't make sense for this to exist in my setting. Well, maybe this is the reason why this thing comes about. And you don't really need a reason, to be honest with you. You don't need a reason, but this reason could be, hey guys, in our world we have a new year. In my setting there's a new year. There's a great festival. You've come here to celebrate, but then the town crier unrolls the scroll, a blank sheet of parchment that suddenly has words on it, and they read upon what the new year will bring, for good or bad. And now the players just need to deal with that thing. Okay, the day of the new year, and Bono, Lord of Whiny Bitch Star, rules the realms. Come on, lords. It could be true. I think that's funny. I like that. PCs are like, will you shut them up? Get them off stage. We're hearing the same music for the same concert every single day. It's been 87 days. I defected from Romania in 1964. In 1983, holy shit. I was still in the U.S. Army. Are you serious? What? That is interesting. I always wanted to, I thought if I couldn't do this, I'd love to do a show where I just interview people with interesting lives, or interview people to find out the interesting things they've done in their life. I don't know how popular it would be, but it would be kind of cool. Yeah, hey, shit, Lawrence. I see you. I see what you're talking about. Sadre says, I will confess that I have never been one to worry about controlling the passage of time. Usually when I sit in the GM chair, it's modern fantasy games or sci-fi games. Really? But even so, I don't worry that much about it. Wow. You're sci-fi fan. Yeah, we're on the same page on that one. And there's plenty of people in the TTRPG community, especially here in the States, that they like the other white meat, meaning like it's not just fantasy and it's not just dark fantasy, but they like modern gaming and sci-fi gaming. And sci-fi gaming doesn't get that much love, really. It's always treated pretty horribly, I think. Drew says, well, then I don't need that day, since my setting is not a static world, but just an expression of the inner world of the characters. Ooh. See, now for you, Drew, because you fall assumption that you fall more on the psychological, emotional realm, introducing the new year could be your version of the trolley problem. So you guys know the trolley problem. There's an out of control trolley about to kill 5 people. Do you pull the lever to make it go to another track to kill 1 person? Right. And what I mean by that is the new year could represent a number of conundrums that the players bump up against that challenges their worldview. So and that could, not the trolley problem specifically, but it could be a shift of the things they hold dear are being threatened, or a new problem arises, and now they have to decide, do I maintain my path of my morality and ethics, or do I shift over, and am I pulled emotionally to one side or pragmatically to another side, or something like that? So yep. Helio says, how about a season of insanity? Yeah, you may not want that, although it would be cool, right? Now, mind you, specifically, we're talking about a whole year. So maybe I'm even going further than even you're thinking. But a day of the new year could be one in which it's predicted that, madness and insanity and losing one's mind becomes a threat into the new world. And then, oh, guess what? I also have a book, or hey, remember that chapter in the back of the book about madness and things like that? How about we introduce that into the game? And then maybe that becomes a thing that grows over time, that the players have to a new vector of challenge before the players lose their minds to when they encounter different things. Yeah, I would be down for that. Yeah, yeah. Um, Hanada says, but this conversation is giving me some ideas to think about a game that would do this control. Okay. All right. Especially about time. Now, mind you, I'm not really a very good timekeeper, but we have our real world to use. So if it's the new year, that what I'm using this, of course, is an excuse for gaming ideas, right? So yeah, you don't have there's no reason for you to have strict uh time management, but why not? Mm-mm-mm. Heathen says, "Oh wow, hey, didn't think there would be a show tonight." Oh, you're all right. You're coming in late, but that's all right. You're coming into the best part. That's what happens. Mm-mm-mm. You guys have a private conversation. Harry's 77. That's awesome. That is it. By the way, um, thank you very much for being here, Harry. I know you're one of our elder states peoples personages. 77. I'm catching up to you. I'm getting there. And King says a king wished to live as the elves do for a day. Oops. Hey, what why not? Maybe the day of the new year allows the day of the new year allows individuals to become to walk in the shoes of someone else, and that would be rather strange. Do they physically change to become elven, or do they stay, say, human or dwarven or whatever? They just happen to take on the traits of the other race for a year. It'd be different. Hanada says it's the same thing here. Medieval fantasy is so strong that we have a national game that sells more than D&D. Oh, really? Although this has changed recently with the launch of a horror game created by a famous role-playing streamer. I told you you're allowed to leave this information in the chat. I want to know about these things. Yeah, that's awesome. Wow. There's something about fantasy though that I think strikes a an animalistic chord in us. So it's not so um pre-Bronze Age gaming, I think, is a little too ancient and old and feral for us. Cavemen, primeval type of barefoot, sticks and stones kind of thing. So I think medieval is advanced in technology enough for us to associate ourselves with it, and feral enough that it strikes some kind of survival instinct in us to want to be able to survive by our wits and our courage and our strength and our ingenuity and our um, allows us to be it allows us to be civil and live in a society and then be brutalistic and live by our own code of ethics. And I think fantasy gives us all of those flavors and textures combined together. I think that's why we tend to fall back into fantasy, not necessarily the game, but the fantasy realm and why it draws us in so much. You know what I mean? Because makes sense. Just curious about the timeline. Well, congratulations, you made it out perfect time. You guys having talking about leaving. Uh, uh, I want to be part of that conversation, but I know people tune in for other things here. If I had another channel, I would do that. Okay. Heathen says, yeah, enemies are forced to live a year in the lives of their adversaries. Ooh, shit. I'd like that a lot. Could you imagine a brutalistic society ignores this festival, this new year that comes about, and when it does come about, they end up finding out that the people they enslaved, they become the enslaved. Ow! I like that. I'm with you, Heathen. I would like to try a hunter gatherer role playing just because I've never done it before. Not really, not long term. I think there's more storytelling opportunities than people give it credit for. plus that and the fact that some people just don't like dinosaurs, and dinosaurs and hunter gathering kind of go together a little bit. So I think there's that. I would like to play a game in which I can be a feral cavalwaif, cavalwify. Don't know what that is. I'm both scared and or frightened. Harry says, "No, I left due to my family. Helped our king and family to Switzerland. More likely to have been a price for me, not with the name of Harry." Oh wow! Ooh, we're gonna have a. We're gonna have to do something about this conversation. I'm not terrible. I mean, yeah. Oh man, the Ant King says it's funny we think that way about pre-Bronze eras. They were bathing more than people in the Dark Ages, and they were building incredible machines. That's true. You know what? You're right there, Ant King. Um, we tend to forget that the Dark Ages actually represents an era in which we stopped um representing things that were actually helping society go further. We actually went backwards. So you are actually correct. You're very correct in that fact. Yep. DBJ, sorry, just talking about Romania, one of my favorite countries because they overcame tyranny on their own. Yeah, that's awesome. Oh, I oh shit. Yes, cave wife. I didn't I get it now. I just listen, it's a live show. And when you guys put things in front of me, you have to understand that I take things literally because I understand that there's a possibility, there's a slight possibility that that I will be adding the wrong context to a thing if I present that context in my own context. So yes, it did look like Cave Wife to me. No, listen, I just now that you're talking about being a feral cave wife, I'm wondering if you mean you're going to beat people about the head and shoulders with a large stick after after the people go out hunting and gathering and you come back because not too many people are going to be pretty happy with you hanging out in the back corner of the cave. But what's the game? Oh, I just there's a review on the channel and it keeps getting views. Um, there is a fifth edition mod setting about star wayfinders something. Um, uh, wait, um, I can't, I can't, I can't find it. I don't even remember the name of it. I'm not going to bother looking it up. It doesn't matter. My game is about 3000 BC. That's awesome. All right. We've gone back and forward through time and a little bit through space. But also with the new year, we often have the idea of assessing our real lives. But in fantasy, we can do an assessment of what's happened in the game, maybe uh, bring together some of those storylines that we've kind of dropped along the way, or those story hooks that we wanted our players to follow that they ignored. But maybe the players are like, hey, we didn't go down the left side. We kept making right turns. Or maybe there are big bads that were defeated, but they're not quite dead. They've been dispatched and they want to come back, as well as treasures that were never found by the player characters, or maybe some NPCs step up to the plate and they're really ready, willing, and able to go like, hey, hey, player characters, remember you forgot about me? Maybe remember that time you punched me in the face because I stole 3 copper pieces from you? Well, I'm an CR8 entity now. Let's go at it in the middle of the street or something. I mean, it doesn't have to be that silly, but maybe that is a fact. Or even heck, just opening up your world map and looking at the factions and the way everything has gone, um, making changes in your world that are realistic, and changing the borders of one country to another, changing financial or economic situations, um, the life, death, and tribulations of nobility and rich merchants and the movers and shakers in the world. Just because the players aren't there doesn't mean there aren't assassinations and and things like that. Oh, thanks, Harry. Harry's a true algo slayer, so I really appreciate that. Uh, let's see. Sadre says, I don't know if you watch Korean dramas, but there's one that I really like where the king of Korea comes to our reality and sees a world different from his. The name is King Eternal Monarch. I haven't seen it, but I do like Korean dramas and shows. Of plenty of stuff that's coming out of Korea that's very uh, creative, or taking new spins on old tropes, and I love it. Or taking a really old trope and just diving directly into it, which is another thing too. Thus discovering a whole new world, and if I'm not mistaken, this happens on a new year. Oh, I did. That's awesome as well. He This is, hey, when is the last show of the year? Also good whenever. The last show of this year will be this Friday, and then the new show will be where's my calendar here? And then the new show will be probably January 8th, something like that. Yes, January 8th. Hey, the New Year's when a lot of people swear off booze for a month just to prove they're not true beer addicts like me. And we all like to have our little resolutions that only last till like February or something like that. But which would be pretty hilarious in a fantasy setting, especially if like the player characters have to like make a promise to do something, and you get your typical like, to keep evil, what's this tropey storyline, to keep evil away we must speak the words of attrition that will, or read the words from the ancient text or whatever to keep the demons away. And how easily bored will those individuals get? I mean, I know in a lot of fantasy movies and television shows, they've been reading the words for 1,000 years. Listen, after a couple of hours, you're like, listen, nothing's happening. I'm gonna go for a smoke or smoke break or get a snack or something. They always walk away, and then the big bad evil guy looks around out of the portal like, is anybody still here? Are they going? Great. February? It took a lot longer than I thought it would. I figured they'd leave halfway through January by now. Shice is like, 2 weeks off, perfect timing not to get up at 5:30 in America. Hey, listen, you guys, your time is very valuable. I say this all the time. I hope that I can return some change to you and your tabletop role playing experience. Yeah, you guys won't. Those of you guys in the States, what is it? 4:30 in the morning or something like that for heathen. Like, really? Great. I'm gonna put Harry's comment back up here just because I didn't have to do it. Yeah. Uh, Swearing off booze, or how to depower your drunken master monk. Yeah. Hops Lord. Yeah. And I understand that one. Got some hops, some yeast, some rye. Oh man. Make the drunken master monk time travel to the pre-bronze era. Nobody had alcohol or language or currency back then. I don't know. Alcohol's probably pretty damn old, I think. I don't know how old though. When we could look that up. AKA thanks in phonetic Korean. Gam swaham kinda? I don't know. Oof. Mm-mm-mm. Shai says, N King, they did indeed have alcohol back then. Hell, they had it in the Stone Age. I was going to say, I'm pretty confident somebody invented or developed or found alcohol. Yeah, shit. Lord says the ancient Egyptians had alcohol too. Wow, hilarious. And Drew says alcohol. I thought about that too. Yeah, yeah. The alcohol can happen naturally in rotting fruit. Yep, yep, yep. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for allowing me to just pick these random, semi-random things. New Year's isn't random, but these prompts for allowing us to just be creative and come up with um, new ideas. Yeah, Gamsa Hum Kinda. And I'm pretty sure I'm putting the improper emphasis on the incorrect syllable. um, The Day of Grain and Grape Part 2 as the cycle draws to a close. Yeah. Yeah, that was one of our first shows, The Day of Grain and Grape. Um, yeah, giant minotaurs looking over their orchards and crops of grapes and things like that, which would be pretty fun. Um, fields of wheat or corn or whatever they're going to use, or potatoes or something they're going to use for their alcohol, sugarcane. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. Of course, tomorrow is Friday, which means that it's going to be a future Friday, and we're probably going to talk about a bit about baggage and things taken from Forged in the Dark, a game called Thirsty Sword Lesbians. I know it's a Powered by the Apocalypse game. It's a real thing. And even the Lumen game and how I've kind of commingled everything to try not to make it so complicated, but actually make it more more interactive to get out of the bad stuff. Like how do you, I talked a lot about the gear baggage thing, but how do you get rid of it? So we're going to talk about that as well. So guys, have a great one. I will see thee later. Peace and tranquility, guys. Great. Shit, Lewis says Obsidian Star to close out before the Christmas wasteland descends upon us. Yeah, leaving the bag in this year. Then hell's yeah, we're gonna take us out on that one. Guys, have a great one. I'll see you later. Peace.